Hello everyone, it's Lenny here. I want to talk about some recovery tips for dealing with FND. One thing that I found really helpful was dealing with my fatigue and energy, approaching it as though I have chronic fatigue syndrome. And I did a lot of research about that and found some other useful resources and what's the latest research on chronic fatigue and reading stories of people who have improved. So one thing that I found, and it works with other symptoms as well, is finding your baseline of energy and then not overdoing it. So for a lot of us, we find that when we are stressed, when we overdo it, then our symptoms become worse. So for you, maybe you haven't figured out what your triggers are yet, you don't know really what sets things off, but this is kind of Lenny's handy-dandy tip for how to start recovery. So, can you, for 2 weeks, live your life without overdoing it for 2 weeks? So you probably know what it means to overdo it for you. If it's working, doing housework, going out, partying, wild parties, pushing yourself too much, you probably notice that there's some effects afterwards, whether you're feeling stress, feeling so run down, you start to get sick, maybe you get a virus, you just feel so exhausted. So my challenge to you is do 1 day and do 14 days of not overdoing it. Because in our support groups, I often hear people say, oh, like I did too much and now I'm suffering the effects. So do 2 weeks without overdoing it and find out what your baseline of activity is, where you don't suffer bad symptoms or side effects for that. So if you find you're still really exhausted or your symptoms suffer, then you probably need to reduce your activity more and do things that you enjoy, things that give you life, interacting with people who are helpful for you. So it's not do nothing. What I'm saying is find out what's the minimum that you can do without suffering some side effects. And then from there, once you've found out what your baseline is, then you can gradually stretch yourself and introduce new activities. So my physiotherapist had me doing a short walk, and at first all I could do was a 1-minute walk around the house. And this was when I was having some gait problems, some movement problems, so I was just doing a wonky walk from the couch to my bed and back, and that's all I was doing in 1 day. But as I kind of retrained my brain to know how to walk properly, I would increase my walk by 1 minute a week and then 1 minute a day. So it's just such a small thing, but if you think about over a long period of time, that's actually going to be really beneficial for you. So rather than pushing it so hard and, I need to do so much so that I can improve, think about it in the long run, that you actually want to improve in the long run rather than just pushing and crashing, and then kind of burning yourself out. That will harm you in the long run. So you want to do incremental, like very small increases so that you can build up in the long term. So 2 weeks without overdoing it, and I know that there will be unexpected things and there'll be emotional stress, but as best as possible, go for 2 weeks without overdoing it and be aware of yourself for that time. And then you can start increasing your pacing. So my one suggestion is increasing per week your daily activity by 1 minute. So if you are able to walk, then increasing how much walking you're doing. So you might be doing just a 5-minute walk in your street, and then increasing that each week, so that you eventually build up so that now I'm able to do more than 30 minutes walk and I won't face side effects from that. And I've been able to retrain my brain to know how my legs move properly, and you wouldn't even know that I have any kind of walking problems now if you saw me walking now. But you can see my past videos if you want to see a sample of what my gait disorder, what my wonky walk looked like. I have another video of that. And if you're not able to walk, perhaps you can think about some other kind of restorative movement that you can do. So if you can move your arms, you could do some arm exercises. Imagine doing a star jump. You're probably not able to do star jumps right now, but you can do some small movements that would be like doing stretches. And another thing is about your mental capacity, reading. So my physiotherapist gave me an exercise which is not a physical movement but reading, to try to read a page of a book every day. And at that stage I couldn't even read a sentence, let alone a paragraph. So really kind of finding out what's my limit and stepping back from the absolute maximum, and then gradually increasing and increasing until your capacity increases. So now I'm actually able to read some children's books that I really enjoy, and they've still got some pictures in them, but I'm able to read like 50 pages a day, which is amazing because 12 months ago I couldn't read and I was in a wheelchair. But this is by being very slow and gradual and intentional and being kind to yourself on days when you just can't do anything. That's okay. Alright, I'd love to hear how you go in finding out what your baseline of activity is and gradually increasing it over the long run. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint.